Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. And newbies, welcome, welcome, welcome. If this isn't a call to action, I don't know what is. I want to talk about the 6 University of Idaho students that were attacked, leaving 4 deceased, and the police are asking for anyone with information to please come forward. Y'all, this is bizarre and horrific. Shout out to my subscriber, Ray of Sunshine, who brought this story to my attention. It hasn't been getting a lot of attention. Only on TikTok, the news is saying. And I think it's because this happened around the same time as Shanquella's horrific video surfaced. Y'all, this is horrifying. 6 college friends were hanging out near their home that they shared close to their college campus. And late in the morning on November 12th, 4 ended up losing their lives and 2 surviving. The police first called it a targeted but isolated attack because they were saying Kaylee Gonzalez had a stalker who may have followed them home or showed up at the house late that night, but then that ended up not being true. Then later the police called it a crime of passion because they didn't want the public to panic. Yet they still haven't caught the person or knew who or why this happened. Listen to this. The New York Times wrote, 4 students at the University of Idaho were found dead near campus in what a local official described on Monday as a crime of passion. Art, the mayor of Moscow, Idaho, said in an interview that the authorities were still investigating what had transpired, but that the case was being treated as a homicide. He said the authorities did not believe that there was a perceivable danger to the broader public, but he declined to say how the victims had been killed or whether a suspect was at large. With a crime of this magnitude, it's very difficult to work through. The mayor added the police need time to piece together what has transpired. The overall assessment is that it's a crime of passion, he said. The authorities said they responded to a call about an unconscious individual on Sunday and discovered 4 dead people, 3 women and 1 man, at a house near the University of Idaho campus. On Monday, they identified the victims as Ethan Chapin, 20, Madison Mogan, 21, Xana Canoodle, 20, and Kaylee Gonzalez, 21.
Contradictory information came in the first days of the investigation.
We believe this was an isolated, targeted attack on our victims.
Those words echoed in the press, perhaps leaving the impression that the police knew something that should make the public less worried. But some residents and neighbors near the crime scene were not comforted by the terms targeted and isolated.
At first, I thought that they actually had something going, so you think that makes sense, like, oh, it's targeted, and you wait to see what they say, but now they've said nothing and that they know nothing. So how can you say it's targeted?
Then the local mayor went further, telling the New York Times it could have been, quote, a crime of passion, later clarifying that was just one possibility.
I don't want people to panic. And yet, unless you have the evidence that you are willing to share with the public and be transparent about how the investigation is going, these words are completely giving false confidence.
But police say they can't share their entire case for fear of compromising the investigation.
You can't just put that out into the public's eye. It would impede the investigation, and ultimately it might impede justice at the very end of this.
But with no suspect identified, many students packed up and left town.
There's no perp caught or anything, so it's definitely uneasy on campus right now.
By day 4, police recognized their assurances of public safety weren't resonating as residents fixated on the fact a killer was not caught. Police Chief James Fry went before the cameras.
We cannot say that there's no threat to the community.
Still calling the crime targeted, but pulling back on assurances there was no public threat and pledging to release more.
I probably should have been standing here a day or so ago, but I'm here now.
Between 2016 and 2021, there were no murders in Moscow. So when the quadruple homicide stunned this town, the 36-person police force was pressed into unprecedented action. With no full-time communication staff,
The messaging was a little bit off.
Idaho State Police were brought in to assist with public messaging.
And really put out, hopefully, the best information we can.
But the rumor mill has been hard to control. A report of a man loitering at a food truck near 2 of the victims was knocked down by police, who later said they eliminated the man as a suspect. Reports that someone's pet dog was, quote, skinned 3 weeks before the killings are also believed to be unrelated. Meanwhile, police are trying to protect the integrity of the investigation.
Yeah, unfortunately, rumors are out there. People want answers. A lot of times, or all the time on TV, these are solved within 60 minutes. There's an appetite to make sure these are done, and we totally respect that, and we will put out as much information as we can, as soon as we can.
Though some victims' families have expressed frustration with a lack of information,
together we want to extend gratitude to the following.
This week, the family of Ethan Chapin acknowledged answers and justice can only come now from police.
The Moscow Police Department, who now carry the burden every day, not only for us, but for all of the impacted families.
I asked about the threat level to the community given the initial confusion of that message. And Aaron Snell here told me that it's always a good idea to be vigilant since the suspect hasn't been caught, saying that it's a good idea to walk in pairs, to lock doors at night. And he did not rule out the possibility of perhaps more than one person responsible for these killings. I also asked about this being a targeted attack, and he reiterated that they still believe that it was, based on evidence found at the scene and the fact that 2 people in the house survived the attack. So if it were a bit more non-discriminate, that perhaps everyone might have died. We hope to hear much more information coming out at a press conference tomorrow at 1 p.m. local time.
Here is the video that they're talking about where the 2 girls, Kaylee and Madison, were at the food truck getting something to eat. I took note of the 2 guys that was pointing at them and watching them as they was leaving. They was first talking about the guy there in the hoodie, but I took note of the guy, the heavier guy with the hat on. I don't know. What do you guys think? Do it look a little suspect to y'all? Drop down in the comment box. Let me know. Then later the police were looking for a white car seen in the area at the time. This case just seemed like it's just all over the place, in my opinion. Listen to this.
police in Moscow, Idaho are now looking for a white 2011 to 2013 Hyundai Elantra like this one, seen around the time of the murders near the off-campus home several of the victims shared. Investigators say information about the sedan and at least one person seen inside the car came from some of the more than 6,000 tips they've received from the public. Police say they believe whoever was in the car could have, quote, critical information to share, and they are urgently asking the public for any other details as they continue their investigation.
We still have thousands of leads and tips that we're working through. We're continuously making progress. We're interviewing people daily. So we're moving forward.
It's been almost a month since 4 University of Idaho students were stabbed to death on November 13th, and police have still not found a murder weapon or named a suspect in the case. Investigators are still looking at the victims' activities in the hours before the murders and have addressed speculation that victim Kaylee Gonsalves may have had a stalker.
From the tips and leads that we received, we were able to find a singular incident that we thoroughly investigated and determined to the best of our ability that it was not related.
Investigators continue to look into the possibility of a stalker. And now, as students at the University of Idaho head into their last week of the fall semester, roughly a third are choosing to stay home for the rest of the year.
Hell, I don't blame them. I would too. Or I would want my kids to be home too. To be honest, it seems like the police really don't know much right now at this point. I just hope the 2 people who survived will be able to shine more light on this case. The family of Kaylee and Zaina spoke out with reporters, Brian Eaton and Ashley. Brian Eaton, he broke down some of the evidence surrounding the case in a video, but it was 40 minutes long. Of course, I'm not going to play the entire 40 minutes. Just wanted to let y'all hear some of the highlighted parts.
We start on the evening of Saturday, November 12th. Kaylee Gonsalves and Madison Mogan, where many college students spend their Saturday nights. At this local bar, the Corner Club on North Main Street in downtown Moscow. According to local law enforcement, the 2 were at the bar between 10 p.m. and 1:30 a.m. on November 13th. At around 1:40 a.m., Kaylee and Madison moved over to a local food truck. You can see them here on surveillance video from the grub truck down the street on South Main Street. News Nation has confirmed the two women used a private party for a ride home from downtown to their home on King Road. The home is about a mile and a half, or about a 6-minute drive from the food truck. They got home around 1:56 a.m., according to digital evidence collected by investigators. Investigators also say Kaylee and Madison made several calls to an ex-boyfriend of one of the girls 7 times, raising some eyebrows. That person has now been cleared, according to law enforcement. Here's where things get a little shaky. Law enforcement confirms with News Nation, Ethan and Xana were seen at the fraternity house around 9 p.m. They reportedly made it back home around 1:45 a.m. Investigators are still trying to piece together what happened between 9 p.m. and 1:45 a.m.
Figure out who they were with, what that was going on, maybe any routes or paths that they took to end up going home, those types of things. Potentially, that is critical to the investigation.
As for the two surviving roommates, they were also out on the night of November 12th in the Moscow community. They returned home by 1 a.m. The two surviving roommates did not wake up until later in the morning on November 13th. That is when they called other friends to the house because they believed one of the second-floor victims had passed out and was not waking up. At 11:58 a.m. on November 13th, a 911 call requested aid for an unconscious person. The call was made from one of the surviving roommates' cell phones inside the residence. Multiple people talked with the 911 dispatcher before Moscow police arrived at the home. Officers discovered Kaylee, Madison, Xana, and Ethan dead inside the residence on the 2nd and 3rd floors of the home, suffering from stab wounds.
It was a pretty large knife, so it's really hard to call them puncture wounds. And they were definitely stabbings. And I mean, it has to be somebody that's pretty angry in order to stab 4 people to death.
4 innocent college students now 3 weeks ago. Still no significant developments, still no named suspect, still no named persons of interest. Kaylee Gonzalez's injuries were significantly more brutal. That is what I can say. Significantly more brutal than her best friend Maddie's injuries. Let me show you, Ashley. I want to take you up the hill here and get you oriented. This is the front of the house. There's now private security out front. And oh my, because it's going and it's very, very slippery. But we're going to walk you up to the back of the house. No windows on the side of the house. You've got the front door obviously on the front, which we know has the coded lock. On the back of the house, though, I was explaining that we confirmed that Kaylee's injuries were more significantly brutal than Maddie's. We've also confirmed that they were on the 3rd floor. I'm going to have Mo show you. 3rd floor here, where not easy access. You've got the balcony. There's a slider. You can't easily jump up there. So what this has us wondering, Ashley, and I want you to kind of walk through this with me. If Kaylee's injuries were the most severe up on the 3rd floor, and there's no way out of the 3rd floor, would that mean the killer specifically targeted the 3rd floor? Because it doesn't make any sense. Why would the killer go up to a floor where there would not be an easy exit for him?
Did they begin on the 2nd floor where Xana Kernodle's room was? And of course, Ethan had been staying over that night. And we now know that that room was the room on the far side of the house. So not the side of the house that you're on right now, on the other side of the house at the front of the house. That's Xana and Ethan's. And then did they progress to the 3rd floor? And while your mic was cutting out, I think the key piece of information that the audience couldn't hear was which room upstairs on the 3rd floor the girls were actually found in. That before now, we only knew they were found together, but we didn't know in Maddie's room or in Kaylee's room. And so as we look at the 3rd floor map right there, bedroom number E, or bedroom E, is Maddie's bedroom, and it looks out the back of the house. And bedroom F is Kaylee's bedroom, and it looks out the front, but also the back where the slider is. So what did you discover about which room? Maddie's room on the left or Kaylee's room on the right?
That's right. We've confirmed that they were in Maddie's room, which is also interesting. That's something that we did not know. So Kaylee's injuries were significantly more brutal, but they were sleeping together in Maddie's rooms.
You know, she was hurt. hurt so bad that she was not able to recover. That is just terrible.
Oh, it's okay.
It's terrible. And I cannot fathom in my head what kind of person did this.
It's capable.
And why. I can't sleep at night. I lay in bed pondering just millions of different scenarios. And just, I want to know, but then there's stuff obviously you don't want to know, but
you just cry.
I think I want to know it all, and
you're okay.
I just don't understand why. How somebody can take somebody, four of them, it wasn't just my girl, just so savagely.
Is anyone acting differently since the murders? I mean, is there anyone that you have a weird feeling about that the girls knew or that comes to mind?
Yeah, I would say not in the immediate circle by any means, but a few of the names that have been circulating around, I think it's hard not to kind of, dig into this. And I don't know how much of that is just because we have so little information from law enforcement and how much of it really is, a sister or a father's intuition.
Can you elaborate at all? I don't know. You don't have to give a name, but I mean, is it someone that she knew, or?
I have something to say about that. I just feel like there's been a couple individuals that were cleared very fast. That maybe shouldn't have been. And
She had the strong alibi.
just really fast.
If you can dismiss
an hour later, and we're like, what? And I don't know. I don't know anything about those individuals. I just know they were people that definitely should have been looked at, and
I don't know what would prevent you from sharing somebody's alibi.
Yeah, I think that's what we're struggling with. So it's like, we know what we know. We've, fought for Jack, Kaylee's boyfriend, and, we still stand that way. So I did just kind of want to clear that up while we're talking through this ambiguity that, that's not what we're honing in on here.
We don't want to make more victims out of innocent people.
Exactly.
We definitely don't want to do that.
No. You've mentioned before that you didn't want to have a funeral right now because the killer's still out there. Is that something that you're still thinking about? Are you nervous at all? I mean, because in Moscow, we talked to students. People are really nervous there.
They should be.
Yeah.
This targeted to me, it seems behavior based. That's why I don't like it, and it kind of pits the parents against each other. So I don't like that. I just told some of the other parents today that if your daughter has no ill will for me, man. To me, if you go have a couple beers or go out and hang out with your friends and then come home and go to bed, if that's your target, then I think we all do that. I think we all come home and go to our beds.
It's all target.
Yeah, so
it's kind of a bad word then. It doesn't really make sense in some ways.
Exactly.
Even the prosecutor told me that.
Yeah.
He said, I think it was kind of a weird word to choose.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if it makes sense if there was some bad behavior that they did, let's say, I don't know, they came from a strip club or something, and then somebody followed them home. That's a targeted thing. That's what comes. I've had innocent people that were interviewed that were their neighbors, and they said, I'd be a lot more scared if it wasn't targeted.
To me, that he had just went and replaced the lock the weekend before.
You said her father mentioned to you that they had replaced the lock?
Yes, that he had fixed it or something. But yeah, he said that he had fixed it the week before, just to make sure.
The week before.
Yeah. I do not think it was the house that was targeted. I believe wholeheartedly that it was those kids who were targeted. They weren't just acquaintances. These kids were like best friends. They practically were family. These kids were tight-knit. They were good friends. They were like family. They were around each other constantly. They did everything together. How could it not be a planned thing? How could it not have been targeted?
The forensics team is on a case like few others.
It's so very complex. We're not talking about a person that just randomly walks up on the street and stabs somebody and walks away. We're talking about 4 individuals here.
Forensics professor and Body Bags podcast host Joseph Scott Morgan also taking note of how the murderer slipped into the home on Moscow's Kings Road. No broken windows, no broken doors.
And for the investigators, that's a big piece of information. It goes from, if you're looking at a potential suspect, what level of familiarity did they have with this environment? Did they feel comfortable in it? Did they know their way around? Would they say, you know what, maybe I don't want to go in the bottom? Keep in mind, the 2 people that lived downstairs, they didn't die.
And I know police are remaining tight-lipped for the most part, but do we have a time frame when more of this evidence could come back, the testing?
Well, this is the benefit of actually being able to go to the Idaho State Crime Lab, right? We were able to ask them that, and they told us that they've already processed some of this evidence and they've gotten it back into the hands of the detectives. So right now, information is coming in and they are processing new information, but obviously this could take weeks as, like I mentioned, a lot of evidence to come through.
Can you talk a little more about, a lot of people have been wondering if Kaylee had a stalker, if that was really true?
I said this, she's a pretty girl, her friends are really pretty, so them attracting attention was pretty common wherever they went. So I think she attracted attention, whether that's a dedicated person following her around, maybe not. I do believe that the officers looked in it and I believe what they said, that there was no evidence there.
Are you confident with the way they're investigating?
I think it's hard to say this way or that. They're obviously holding it very tight to chest, which could either be a really, really great sign or a really, really bad sign. And I think depending on not even the day, the hour, especially my dad and I, we go back and forth between they got this and kind of falling apart a little bit and, you know, really looking at specific events that have been strange or maybe should have been looked into more in our eyes.
I do believe someone somewhere knows something. I just pray the 2 survivors are able to help because they were downstairs. So I'm not sure how helpful they will be. They may have not seen nothing. I don't know. You know, what do y'all think? I will bring updates on this case as it continues to unfold. Do y'all think it was a crime of passion or that they was targeted? Or maybe somebody out there may be targeting college kids. I don't know. Drop down in the comment box. I want to know y'all thoughts on this. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to hit that like button if y'all already haven't. And follow me on all my platforms, y'all. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. All at Sister Girl Talk TV.